of a lot of window companies out there. Okay, wall siding, you have Anderson, you have Capella, Hanson's, okay? They've marketed themselves and branded themselves as window companies. You got your roofing companies, Mr. Roof. I have no idea what I'm doing.
It's recording right now. It's just zoom in where you want it at, and it'll autofocus once you get there. You got it. That's right, though, man.
So, roofing company, you're calling Roof One or you're calling Mr. Roof. Hanson's advertises a lot about roof. There's so much fucking competition out there on roofing. When it comes to siding, you look at your fucking Save On magazine. Bunch of roofing window companies in it. No one really advertising siding. So no one really knows who to call. When we do get a call from that or they find us online or whatever the case is, there's not really competition where it's like, oh, well, I gotta call this guy. When you're running into a window lead, well, I got wall side coming out, I got Hanson's coming out, you can almost guarantee it on every fucking one. Siding, who knows who might be coming out. A lot of chucking the trucks and stuff out there. Windows, how much are windows advertised for? How much have you seen them on TV advertised for?
Cable.
Buy one, get one free.
Okay, you got the buy one, get one free. Wall side for years used to advertise the fact windows starting at $199. Okay, well, $199 window. I'm going to go through my house. I'm going to count up all my windows times $200. That's roughly what that one's a picture window. It's about 3 windows. So they figured all in and figured, okay, that's what the amount is going to cost. All right, it's easy for them to kind of figure out what that pricing is going to be. Roofing, they always got a guy. They have their neighbor or somebody that they talk to or whatever. And I got how many square feet of materials in my house? I got a 1,300 square foot ranch. So I got 13 squares is what they think. They're not incorporating the garage, they're not incorporating the pitch, but they kind of get an idea. All right, I should be roughly $200-300 a square, and then they kind of calculate it. Siding, number one, no one knows how much siding they have in the house. Okay, you can't just calculate that by your square footage.
Right.
All right, and then add a little bit more for the pitch or whatever. So going into it is kind of a blind item. They don't know what their squareage is. They don't know how much per square they should be doing. And there's so many, no one knows what the competition is or who to even call. So the thing is if you can establish yourself as that expert, make them realize you know what the fuck you're talking about, the price is really irrelevant, okay? Roofing, can you really tell if you got a real hack roof job from the ground?
No.
Okay, it's a shingle's a shingle. They all look the same, but it's the underlayments, it's the system, the ventilation, the unforeseen things that determine if that roof is any good or not. The average eye, the average consumer can't tell that, okay? But siding, you've seen some fucked up siding jobs before, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, your eyes are both lighting up and shit. There's a lot of hacks out there, and it's easy to point that out. So what you do is you scare the fuck out of them with siding against everybody else. By the end of your presentation, or middle of your presentation, they should be going, dude, I don't even fucking want siding anymore. It's gonna look like shit. Okay, I'm just gonna paint it. I don't want siding. Okay, and then you show them the good stuff, how we do it and all the details and stuff. Problem is that there are so many subcontractors in siding, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. It's very short on the labor that's out there or available for us. Okay, we pay top dollar and everything else, but we expect certain things when it comes to our siding. And you'll show pictures and different things that fuck up siding jobs. Get outside, take your own photos, point these things out to your customers on all their neighbors' houses, on their current house. I always ask the question on siding. Well, why would people get siding? Let's start there. Why do people get siding?
Curb appeal.
So curb appeal. They want to change the way the house looks. Okay, what else?
Adds extra insulation too.
Curb appeal. Extra insul. Why else do you think?
A little bit more weatherproofing.
Okay, so maintenance free?
Yeah.
Because they got wood siding up there right now, right?
Correct, yeah.
Maintenance. Right? Maintenance? Spell check doesn't work on these whiteboards, man. Alright, you get it. Maintenance free. No painting. There we go. I know how to spell it.
No paint.
No paint. Alright, you don't have to worry about the wood rotting out and all of that stuff, right? So, curb appeal, they want to dress it up. They want to add, beautify the house. They want maintenance free. They want to put away their paintbrush. They never want to have to paint again. They don't want the wood to be destroyed. All right? So I always ask the question up front, are you just worried about how it looks? I'm sorry, are you just worried about maintenance free, or do you also care about how it looks? Okay, I'll ask that question a lot to the customer. I want them to respond. I want them to think about it. Because a lot of people, they want to get siding because they want the maintenance free thing. But, you're spending, you're investing all of this money in siding. Are you also concerned about how it looks? Because that's where I'm gonna hammer it. All right, we've all seen those shitty jobs. I can just cover up your wood and make it maintenance free so you don't have to paint it. But you've seen those hack jobs, they still look like fucking shit. Okay, now you're actually taking away from the value and the quality of your house because you got siding on it. That's why some subdivisions you go into, or the homeowners association will say you can't have vinyl in here. Because they know there's a lot of fucking hacks out there and it'll make your house look worse than it was. Alright, so that's why they completely ban that shit and say you gotta go hardy board. Because we've seen the waves and stuff down people's sides of people's houses and stuff with the vinyl or even the aluminum and things. So these associations are like, fuck it, dude, these are beautiful houses. The minute you do that, it just takes the value down. Makes it look cheap. When you get into something like that. You see these like Pulte homes and shit, or these, little houses between like 10 Mile between Hoover and Shaner, right off the power lines or something. They built those fucking subs, they squeeze them in there and they just put the cheap siding up there, and it's siding from the ground 2 stories up, and it's all fucking nasty, and you could tell they were just manufactured cheaply. They're fucking mobile home parks. Same type of thing. They got vinyl on it, but it made some look cheap. And that's when you can get into the different premium siding. So there's a couple different things why people get into siding. Do I need to get into, you know what fascia is? You know what soffit is? You guys know what freeze is? A freeze board?
No.
Okay. You know what that is too? Alright, so. Alright, here's your roof. Here's your fascia, obviously, behind your gutters. That's done in aluminum. Okay? That part is done in aluminum. Your soffit material, your overhang, they used to come in vinyl or aluminum as well. You'd have aluminum soffits that you'll see in a lot of these houses. Nowadays, virtually soffit and aluminum is obsolete. So that's going to be vinyl. All right. Then we have the perforated, and I'll show you the different materials that we use for that. But typically, that's going to be done, in a vinyl. Here's your brick down here, like your brick ranch.
Yeah.
That piece of aluminum that goes up against the brick right up above, where before the soffit where it comes in again. This is your freeze board. That's done in aluminum. So we're going to use as much vinyl on this customer's house as possible. But where you have to bend and turn, that's where the aluminum and everything else is used. All right. So typically, what they'll do is they'll take this piece of aluminum. So they'll take this piece of aluminum, bend it for the size of your fascia, and then they'll put this little bent drip edge at the bottom. So your soffit will go up, and then they'll put the freeze board over top to give it the clean cut look.
The fascia,
complete.
the freeze board, right?
No, the fascia board, I'm sorry. Then your freeze would come down here, if it's available, if you have a spot for it. Some cases you have brick, that's going to have to be bent in aluminum, and I'll show you some pictures of it. That comes up here, gets bent to the edge, so therefore it covers and you don't have any water dripping up underneath. You'll actually have another little lip here. So if the water comes down, it's going to drip down in a way it's not going to come back up underneath the wood. Also, too, a lot of times if that was currently wood, when they put the wood up there and everything else and they paint it, they put a whole bunch of caulk there. So if I'm putting white trim on a house that had beige or wicker, all right, and I just put this little bend here, and I don't put the bent drip edge down there for a ½ inch, you're going to see that caulk line. So it hides that caulk line, but also allows the water to drain down and not up. And then the same thing up top, they'll have a little bend here, just like your fascia board, just to kind of complete it off and give you that final closed out, clean cut look. All right, so that's just kind of the definitions of it all. Now, sometimes you'll see some houses where this is all siding too, and then they'll have their wood freeze board that's here. If that's the case, what typically we'll do is we'll take an insulation board and we'll build it up so this is all level and flush, and we'll just take siding all the way up to your soffit and run it from there, so it's all the same color. Some customers, though, may like the look of having the freeze, the soffit, and the fascia all one color, and then doing siding down here. If that's the case, we got to charge separately for it. You're charging for this has got to be aluminum, this is going to be vinyl, this is going to be aluminum, and then your siding comes up to here. So we're going to have to add a whole bunch of more coil to the job, which is going to cost us a lot more than just running the siding all the way up. So you need to identify that with the customer, which way they got to go. Before you guys leave, I'll pull up a picture of the house you're going to and kind of walk you through what kind of questions you may be getting on it, and if you're running into the situation or kind of what we're dealing with. All right, but that's kind of in a nutshell where you're all at with it. Now, gables, are the peaks coming up from it. You got your gable vents and stuff that you can put in there. Sometimes in your gables, the same thing. if you got your peak coming up, you might have that freeze board, you know, coming up that you see, and then you have your siding in between coming through. You gotta determine, do they want that trimmed out and coil, which is gonna cost them a lot more, or are we just gonna run the siding all the way across? And then you'd still have your fascia board coming through, so you still have something to accent, it still has an overhang on it. But again, when I show you some of the pictures, you'll kind of get a little bit better grasp.
No matter what, all that fascia board is getting aluminum.
Yes, the fascia board always is getting aluminum, okay? The thing is, guys, when you're there selling siding, the big thing you gotta remember is that the idea is to make it maintenance free. So when you're there, figure everything into it. I'm covering all disposable. Any place you see wood or whatever, you have to go in there and make sure you're charging for it. And guys, keep an eye on the time, so we don't run over.
Yeah.
I know you guys have an hour drive or something.
45 minutes. All three of them are in water.
Some days like that, I mean, you guys had to come back for this part of it all, but then, you know, you just go out there, have lunch, you sit down, go over some shit, and then call it a day. You know, you're out there the whole day, that's a perfect situation. So, we've gone through the company store, we've gone through all this stuff, I'm not gonna drag that out or anything like that. So, the reason people get siding is to prevent these type of things from happening. Alright, how often do you have to paint your house? Technically, or typically?
Every other year or so.
Usually it's about 3-4 years. Okay, that's on average. Now to paint somebody's house versus siding it, okay, paint is usually about 25 to 30% the cost of what it would be to siding. But you have to repaint it every 3-4 years. Okay? And it's not just hiring college painters to come out here and paint your stuff and spray it all down. To do it right, you have all of these seams. All of these seams need to be recaulked and resealed before it's painted over. All right, you got to replace the boards. A lot of times you have the paint peeling that's got to be scraped. If you just paint over that, okay, what you're hearing the new paint to is rough. It's loose paint and everything else. That's going to chip and flake as well. So realistically, a paint job may cost, you could get it done from college painters for $3,000 or whatever, but to do it right, probably going to cost you $6,000 if they're going through caulking and sealing. If they don't caulk and seal it and they just spray the paint, you can see where you're going to still have separations in it. The water's getting into the wood because it's not treated properly, so it starts to warp and swell. When you have big gaps like that, that's when the bugs and the critters can get inside of it. The wood becomes moist, so you can see the mold and the mildew forming from it. It gets deteriorated where it just falls and crumbles apart. This job right here at the bottom scared the shit out of me. All right, I went up and knocked on the door. I was sitting there waiting for them to answer the door. A fucking raccoon jumped out of that hole. Scared the living shit out of me, man. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I'm like, what the hell? And then I looked up and I'm looking at this. I'm like, wow. And the mold and stuff everywhere. Okay, I felt terrible because they just had a newborn baby and they had mold like that going all over their house. And I couldn't get through to them how important it was to get this shit fixed. And I pitch and miss it. I didn't end up selling it. But their shit was fucked, and you could tell. Holes right there on the front porch, the mold and mildew everywhere. So obviously the reason you're looking to get siding is to prevent this stuff from happening. You're looking for maintenance free to put your paintbrush away, correct? Because you're looking for the maintenance free, but you care about how it looks.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna focus in now here is how it looks. Now, there is a short-term inexpensive siding out there. It's called grayback siding.
Yes,
Okay.
special.
Yes, special, huh?
Yeah.
Let's get some hands on that stuff if we can, because I need more samples. This is the closest thing I got to it right now that I found in the back. I'll get you guys pieces of it, but what it is it's 60% vinyl, 40% recycled plastic. Okay, so your old Barbie dolls, your Ken dolls, your pop dolls are all put together to make up the rest of this material. And I'm going to back up a second because I want to show you guys a couple things.
That's definitely.
I usually talk about this in the company story, and I forgot because I skipped over it all. But here are a couple siding warranties. Okay? Now, do you guys know the difference between a warranty and a guarantee?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, what is it?
But the warranty is very limited. They can decide what they want to cover, and a guarantee, no questions asked.
Pretty much. That's probably one of the best answers I ever heard. All right, a warranty basically means you pay some and they pay some. Like those limitations you're talking about, that's when you have to reach in your pocket and you're still paying out-of-pocket expenses. A guarantee by law covers everything 100%. No restrictions or conditions. Now, when it comes to siding, I brought a couple things with me, okay, just to show you. They're all beautiful. They all come out here and say, you read it? I'll get you this one first. Lifetime non-prorated transferable warranty, right? Looks beautiful. Till you start reading the fine print. You see all that fine print?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right here, under limitations. What does it tell you they don't cover that I have underlined?
Improper installation.
Improper installation. Well, I got news for you. 90% of a siding job is what?
Installation.
Installation. Anybody can go to Home Depot and buy the same shit I'm putting up there. It's how it's being installed. Okay, they don't know if my 12-year-old kid's picking this shit up, putting it on there. And if that's the case, do they want to be responsible as the manufacturer if something goes wrong on it? Absolutely not. So, do you really think that the install part of the job is important when it comes to siding?
Should be the most important thing.
They know it is, that's why they're putting it on there. That's the most important part, okay? So they're not covering install. What that means is they're subcontracting out the work. They have no clue who's gonna be here tomorrow to do the job for you, okay? And they don't wanna be responsible if the guy fucks it up. That's basically what they're telling you. You might get the good crew, you might get the fucking shitty crew. They don't know, so they're covering their ass. Okay, down at the bottom there you see highlighted. What does that say right there?
Not warranted against discoloration.
Siding is not warranted against discoloration, so a couple years down the line, what do you think's gonna happen to your siding?
Sun damage.
Yes, they figure it's gonna fucking discolor on you. They know that, and that's why they put it in the fine print. Because they know it. What else are you laughing at over there?
Yeah, continuing that sentence, it says, or other damage caused by air pollution, weather resulting from exposure to the elements. Normal weathering is denied. Or
Normal
defined.
weathering. Hold on. Normal weathering. Stop right there. We live in Michigan.
Yeah, there's no.
What the
normal.
fuck is normal weather here? Okay. Could snow tomorrow, right? It wouldn't surprise any of us. What the hell is normal weather? Anything and anything. If it fades,
It actually tells.
hold on. If it fades, don't worry about it. If it fades, okay, they can blame it on the sun. If it starts to be wavy, that means it was nailed too tightly and the weather did not expand and contracted, so they're going to blame it on normal weather. Okay, if it gets brittle and anything that touches it, it shatters. It's because the panel froze and then something touched it because of the normal weather. So anything that may happen in your siding, they could put it in that category as normal weather, which means you absolutely have no coverage. And up top they say non-prorated. Well, what's at the bottom? It's a proration fucking chart.
Yeah, literally, after 4.
Okay, so they tell you it's not covered, it's non-prorated, but then they put a proration chart in there. Here's another one. Lifetime warranty.
Is that illegal?
No, this is all legal, right? Lifetime warranty, right? Then it says limitations. What's the number one thing right there? Improper what?
Improper installation.
Improper install, so they don't know who's doing the work. But how about this one? Defects in?
Failure of damage to the wall or material which siding was installed.
All right.
Remove it.
Damage to? Okay, damage to the wall or material on which the siding is installed. Guess what? Pull up your aluminum. What's underneath it? Some sort of wood, right? Okay, just nailing up siding isn't protecting the wood. These siding pieces, see the holes at the bottom? Why do you think they have holes in them? So they have water drainage, right? So the manufacturers of the siding know water's going to get behind their siding panel. If water gets behind their siding panel, that's why they have holes to drain it out. Well, when water and wood match or meet, what's going to happen to it? Eventually. It's going to rot out, right? Which means the nails that you have nailing in your siding aren't nailing into solid wood anymore, and your siding's going to blow off. So they're going to come out there because your siding failed, and they're going to go, you know what, our siding's perfect. It's not our fault, it's a defect in your wall rotted out. We'll fix it, but it'll cost you. So they might be putting up the siding, but what they're not doing is doing anything to protect the wall. Does that make sense? We need to stop that moisture from getting into the wood so you don't have those issues in the future. All right? Then they also tell you this doesn't cover any damage due to normal weathering. There's somewhere on here. Normal weathering. Okay, again, we live in Michigan. Anything in the world you can throw in under normal weathering. This one I get a kick out of. It sums it all up. Exclusions. This warranty doesn't cover installation, defects caused by installation, or any reinstallation or installation costs. Well, what the fuck is left then? Okay, these are all these limited warranties. We've seen these jobs out there. The bottom line is they're subbing out the work, they're using faulty materials, and they don't know exactly what's going on with it. What we give you at Rock Solid is a lifetime Platinum Plus guarantee. Lifetime on all parts, labor, and the material. We don't sub our guys off and hire guys off of Craigslist because we got a couple siding jobs that are stacked up. No, we got 7 siding crews. All right, they're trained specifically to install our products the way we want to our specifications. That's why we can guarantee it. All right, I mean, not because just I got a couple more jobs, I'm not going to hire a guy off the street without knowing what he's doing. You know, we have these 7 siding crews and everything, and we're still fucking 4 months booked out. Okay, that goes to tell you something. We got some quality crews out there, and we pay top fucking dollar for these guys, especially in this economy with everybody wanting to sit at home. All right, we'd rather fucking pay them more to keep these guys busy. So Installation, weathering, those are all big problems that you're having with the siding. We give you a lifetime guarantee. So, getting into the grayback now. Siding. What it is a blended material. 60% vinyl, 40% recycled plastics. Okay? Your old Barbie dolls, Ken dolls, pop bottles, all mixed in to make up the rest of that color. And when they mix all that material together, it comes out in a grayish color. And hence the name grayback. Typically, okay, this is something too, but what they did is they ended up painting the back of this as well. Okay? Usually you'll flip it over and it'll have a grayish color on the back. That's how you know, and then they paint their color and the texture to the front. Alright? The problem is, okay, when you mix all that recycled material together, you have to use a lot of filler. One of the cheapest fillers you can find out there is water. H2O. Okay? What happens to water when it gets below 32 degrees? Freezes. Right? So virtually what happens is your siding panel will freeze because of all the additive of the water in it. It gets below 32 degrees, it freezes. Now anything that touches it, it shatters. It cracks into a billion pieces. You ever seen like the bottom of a detached garage? The corner posts and stuff where the weed whip came through and fucked it all up? Okay? That's because they're using this material. It becomes brittle, and now anything that hits it busts it up. When that happens, they're going to point to your warranty and say, sorry, it's due to normal weathering. We'll fix it, but it'll cost you more. How are you going to feel with that? Yeah. All right, 40% of this is plastic, right? You guys ever seen those green patio furniture sets people buy? The plastic ones? You put them out at the beginning of the summer, they're nice bright green, right? What do they look like by the end?
Right.
That white, chalky, nasty residue, okay? It's 40% plastic. So at the end of the day, what's going to stop that piece of vinyl from fading on you? Absolutely nothing. That's what vinyl plastic does. Okay, then that's where you have the issues. And when you look in your warranty, what are they going to tell you about discoloration?
Weather.
It's part of the thing. We're not covering discoloration. Because they know with the materials they're using, they're going to have the problems. Now, guys, if you see what I'm showing here or whatever, I'm completely correlating the bullshit product to the warranty. The product is only as good as the warranty. The warranty is only as good as the product. They go hand in hand. You should be doing this with all of your products. But I'm explaining, why are they saying that discoloration is normal? Well, with this material it is. I'm going to have those problems. They know it from testing you're going to have those problems. So they put a void in it. All right? It's a very inexpensive way of doing it. If you were looking to sell your house, okay, right away, and you just wanted to list it as newly sided, that would be the only reason I would even consider it. But if you start fading and having holes and stuff in it, you know, are you really ahead of the game at that point? When you got to do it all over again. All right? Now, install. 90% of your install of a siding job is the installation. All right, a couple ways you can do it. You guys ever seen siding done before?
Yeah. I've seen it drive past it, yeah.
Okay, as they're doing it, okay? A couple ways you can do it. So guys will get up there with the nail gun. Boom, 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 boom. Nice and easy, looks beautiful, everything else. Nice, quick and easy, all that good shit. Or you can go up there with a staple gun. If you're gonna staple this, where are you gonna put a staple?
One half inside the hole, one half outside.
Up here or up here, right?
Yep.
Well, siding has these elongated nail hems for a reason. They're elongated for a reason. It's for the siding to expand and contract. If you're putting in a staple here and it starts to move, what's gonna happen to that staple? It's gonna start pulling out. So now all of a sudden, a couple years down the line, or with different weather changes, you'll have certain sections that just start popping up because the staples are working themselves loose. Okay? So you don't want to use staples when it comes to it, but it's quick, it's easy, and because of that, the labor cost is very inexpensive because they can get to it in half of the time. The other option is like we were talking about with the nail gun, boom, 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 boom. The problem is the nail gun nails everything tight up against the wall. This needs room to expand. If it's tightly nailed up and this tries to move, what's going to happen? It's going to start buckling. That picture in the top right. Okay, I pulled up to that on a Thursday evening. Okay, and I was pulling around the corner and everything else. I'm looking at it going, this has got to be the wrong house. Why am I here? They must have checked off the wrong box. It was probably supposed to be for roofing or whatever, or windows, and they checked off the siding box on accident. It looked gorgeous, brand fucking new. Knocked on the door, everything else. Well, long story short, I ended up resetting the appointment because they forgot about their kid's baseball game or whatever. And they go, why don't you come out Sunday or Saturday morning? And we'll take care of it from here. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take my measurements or whatever. I got all that shit taken care of. Came back out Saturday morning. As I pulled up Saturday morning, that's what I was looking at. The top right there. The waves, the buckles all over the place. Thank you. Okay? It was wavy everywhere. Well, what we found out is they nailed everything too tightly. When I went there Thursday night, the temperature was fine. Everything was stretched out, good to go. Just eat it right. Thank you.
Sorry.
You guys know. So when I pulled up there the first day, the weather was right, everything was nice and smooth, no problem. Well, Saturday morning, the temperature was completely different. The sun was out on it. And that's what it ended up looking like within a 3-day or 2-day period. And that's the problem. They noticed that every other day it looked like that, and they're like, something's fucked up here.
That's a nail gun, huh?
Or just guys not knowing what they're doing and nailing it too tight.
Or nailing it right to the edge of the hole, and not able to.
Typically, what is it? Hammer nail type of style.
So what we do is we hand nail everything. Okay. We use 1 3/4 inch nails, depending on the size of the insulation board behind it. We position the nail in the center of the nailing hem, and then we leave a 1/4 inch clearance for that expansion contraction. You ever heard the terminology hanging siding?
Yeah.
Or siding being hung?
Yeah.
It actually hangs from the wall.
Yeah.
It's not nailed to it, it hangs from it, it dangles. Like when you're nailing up a picture or whatever, you don't nail that nail flush against the wall, there's nothing for that wire to hang off of. You leave a little clearance for it. Same thing with the siding. You position these 16 inches apart. Why 16 inches? That's where your studs are, right?
On the nails, right?
Yeah, we put them, once we find the first nail, we go 16 inches from there. We make sure we hit all the studs. We don't want to nail into the plywood because that could possibly come loose. I mean, it's not bad, but it could possibly come loose. If we're hitting studs, we know that shit ain't moving. And then we leave a 1/4 inch clearance, so now it has the ability to move. You should be able to put your hand up on your wall of siding and go like that, and it'll move a little bit within that little nailing head. That's how it's nailed in, or that's how it's properly installed. The problem is it takes a lot more time to do it that way and hand nail it instead of a nail gun. Okay, you could knock out with a nail gun. You could knock out, a job in half of the time I could if I hand nail it. Okay, why are we more expensive? Because we're going to be here a lot longer. Our labor charge is going to be a lot more because we're taking our time to do it the right way, and it's not going to end up like this. I could do it in half the time too and give you a limited warranty and say if you have something fucked up that's due to improper install, or I can give you a lifetime guarantee where you never have to worry about it again. Okay, we're going to take our time and do it the right way. All right? Again, you worry about just maintenance free, or do you care about how it looks? Now, this picture on the left scared the shit out of me. True fucking story. I was out in Macomb, 22 in Romeo Plank area. Well, Plum Grove was the street I think it was. All right? Right there in that area. So I'm walking up, introduce myself to the guy. He's like, yeah, I'm looking to get siding, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go around, take some measurements, everything else. He's like, all right, cool, I'm just finishing up the dishes. Just give me a knock when you're all done. So I'm like, all right, great. So I got my clipboard, I got my tape measure, and I'm measuring everything up. Well, it was a Colonial. The garage was on the right-hand side as you're walking up, and the porch area on the left, and then the upper and all that shit. So I'm measuring up, and I'm walking alongside the garage, in between the two houses, measuring the fascia board coming through, and then it does that little, after you get to the back, it does that little jut to go back on the, and then the kitchen area is over there. So he's in the fucking kitchen or whatever, washing dishes, looking out his window and shit. I'm coming through. As I'm measuring everything up, I heard the loudest fucking boom I ever heard in my life. Okay? I'm walking back. I hear this boom. I'm thinking I'm involved in a drive-by. Somebody's coming down shooting at me or shooting at somebody. I'm hearing boom, boom, boom. My fucking tape measure goes flying in the air. My clipboard's flying. I'm ducking behind his garbage cans. The dude next door, he's fucking in the window looking at me, laughing his ass off. Going, what the fuck is going on with this guy? So I'm like, what the fuck is that? And he's looking at me and stuff like that. Well, I looked up at the neighbor's house right next door, and that's what I saw up top. The guy's siding was pulling away, got caught in the wind, went right back into the fucking wall and smacked and fucking scared the living shit out of me, man. My stuff was all over the place. I mean, it was a great story for the guy and everything else. Well, turned out we got into the conversation. He had his siding, the neighbor did, installed 3 weeks prior to me getting out there from Sears.
Man.
3-week-old job, and that's what's going on. Okay? The guy paid $35,000 for that siding job. Okay, just for a Colonial and everything else. That was like half of this cost of retail. Okay? And yes, I did sell it, and I sold it at opening. I didn't have to discount.
You did.
Okay? But 3 weeks old. And he called up the company, and they were giving him a hard time about coming back and all the things. And it's the same thing. They're going to come back and say that was improperly installed. It wasn't nailed up right. Didn't hit the studs. Okay? Use the small pieces on the edge where you're just kind of putting it in there with only one nail holding it. Okay? So there's a lot of different things that can happen from it. You got to make sure it's installed properly. I mentioned to you guys earlier, you want to scare the shit out of these people, right? Look at all these fucked up jobs that are out there. And they're going to start painting that picture in their mind going, yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those. But I don't know if I want siding anymore. Okay, that's kind of the idea. Now, what a lot of guys will do is they'll use J-channel, all right, to piece everything together. They'll take 2 pieces of J-channel. You know what J-channel is?
No.
All right. That's what you're looking at in the corner there. I got one piece of it.
That's another guess.
Okay, so basically, what they got going on here, these are your J channels. It's a piece like this, it looks like a J. And they take two pieces of this and they basically butt it up to each other. Okay, and form that corner. It's kind of what you're looking at. Don't mind all this shit. I don't have two pieces of J next to me. And they fit it in the corner, and then they'll take the siding and they'll roll it up into the seam and call it a day. Okay? The problem is, oftentimes when you use that J channel like that, you'll see in the corners, you'll see it kind of going up on a curve. It's not exactly straight and flush. You're shaking your head. Okay? That's why a lot of times they use the same color so it blends in, so you don't see it fucking going all crooked up the wall and everything else. There's a couple problems with it. Number one, it doesn't look very good because it's all crooked as it goes up. But two, right there in the corner, you're creating a seam. So now the moisture can get inside of that seam, cause the water and rot and everything behind the siding, and that's where your corners and shit rip off. They do it for outside corners too. Okay? A lot of companies will take J channel and piecemeal it around the electrical. Square cut it. You see how those pieces are. Okay, number one, it looks like shit, but also too, it's not going to seal around your electrical, which is most needed the most around the electrical properly. You got the seam for the water comes in. What we use are all specially designed outside and inside corner posts. Okay, so now when we have your siding put in, your siding will, this will get put on in the corner. The siding comes in, slides inside of it. Now that whole corner is sealed. All right, there's no moisture or anything that's going to get inside of it. Versus a couple pieces of J. Oh, those are there. No problem. The inside corner, same type of thing. That gets put in here. The siding can slide up underneath it. The other corner is slide up underneath. That's actually an outside corner. I always fuck up. Okay, but it's the same type of situation. You have your outside and inside corner. That's why you're seeing a lot of these houses are accenting with like white corners and putting up beige siding because it looks clean, it looks tight, right? And you're sealing out the area. So again, are you just looking for maintenance free, or do you care about how it looks? Guys, these last guys aren't the other estimates that they've had any, and they don't even know who to call. But no one is talking about any of this stuff. They're not showing these different components and why we use the corners and why we do that instead of just the pieces of J channel. All right? They're just kind of winging it and stuff. And if they had that lowball price, you're building doubt against them because they never went into any of this detail. And at the end of it, by you explaining all of this, even if they haven't had any quotes, you're that expert now. You're painting this picture of what it's going to look like and how it's going to look. So we use the different corner posts and everything to make sure it's sealed properly. Now it's real easy. To take your soffit material, run it to the edge, cut it, and start a new piece. All right, I'll show you in a minute. We take our time. We miter all our corners at 45-degree angles to make sure all the seams and stuff line up. Again, we're not just slapping this shit up there. All right? You looking for maintenance free, or do you care about how it looks? Up top, they bent it, but they didn't bend it properly. They didn't put a nail in there. So you can see now the trim is starting to fall away. Here they didn't use anything. They started to use some boards. They didn't. The siding's coming up. I mean, that thing's just falling apart. Didn't measure it right. Nailed it too tight, so now it's bowing. It's creasing. Now all of your pests, your animals, or mosquitoes, hornets and shit getting in there. Look at how they trimmed out that window. Looks like you're looking at a porthole of a ship, the big, thick trim work going around it. But they got a good deal, didn't they? All right, so our install process, we use a couple different layers. We start off with an insulation board. I don't know if I have all this stuff in here. Okay, starts off with an insulation board. Okay, this serves three different purposes. It insulates your house a little bit. Okay, it's not going to cut your heat and cooling windows in half. Okay, it is going to help you out, but not drastically like that. Okay, what it also does for us is when your siding gets nailed up to your house on top of this board, what it does is it acts as a cushion. If something hits this or whatever, it's going to soften the blow so you don't have any denting or dinging or cracks or anything like that because it's like a pillow underneath it. The main reason this is used, though, is to flatten out your wall. Okay, like you got a stucco job there in between all the trim boards. This stuff will be built and put in there to build the wall out. So now we have a smooth surface. You can see that the guard went on top of it. It's all a flat wall. So now when we start nailing the siding, it's all a smooth surface. Okay, that's the main reason this is used. Okay, but this alone, you can see if you look at it. Okay, it's very porous. There's a lot of holes, nooks and crannies in there. There's going to be seams where you put it all together. So that stuff alone, if it gets nailed into it, can crack. That stuff alone isn't going to protect the wall from future rot. That's when we get into putting in a house wrap. Okay, you guys ever heard of Tyvek before?
Oh, yeah.
Or seen that white paper?
Tyvek pepper.
Yep, and then one of your things I think that I gave you for the roof, my sample was in there that I'll pull out at this point and show. Okay, that white paper, you see these new construction buildings going up? They wrap all that wood with that white paper. That's a water barrier. Okay, that stops the water from penetrating through to the wood. All right, so what we do is we make sure all the wood is solid behind it. We put the insulation board up, and then we put the rain guard or the water barrier up there, so we can protect and make sure that that wall behind we're nailing our siding to is solid, rock solid, right? So now when we put the siding up and we nail it up properly by hand, we can guarantee we're not going to have that clause that say, well, it ain't our fault that's a defect in your wall. We're not going to say that because we're protecting your wall where no one else is. We know just as well as the manufacturers that there is going to be water that's going to get behind your siding. And when it does, we need to make sure it's protected so you don't have issues. If we're going to guarantee it, we must do something different than these other guys. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. So, moving on. When we're out here, everything we do is custom cut and bent on site. A lot of these guys will take it to the local lumber yard, have it pre-bent, okay? Or bend it by hand when I say not the right way of doing it. You know, they get it pre-bent at the factory or at the, you know, at Square Deal or whatever, and then they hope it fits when they get there. All right, that's where you saw like the bubbling of that trim board and stuff like that because they had it bent too big and then they tried to cram it in there and it started bowing. All right, so your socket goes on first down here, and then your fascia and your freeze comes down, and like you whoops, see Daisy. All right, you see how that little drip edge comes down that's covering that caulk line we talked about?
Yeah.
This is the freeze board we just discussed. It has the bent edge up top, the bent edge at the bottom. For every bend we put in the aluminum, it provides extra strength for that panel. It takes out some of the waves and stuff. If we just put a piece of paper, you know, and said, okay, here you go, and just nailed it up like this, you're going to see where the nail holes are. But every little bend and turn, it gives it extra strength in there so it doesn't bend as much. So we want to put as many bends in there as we possibly can. All right? All right, some of the accessories, you can run siding vertically. You don't have to go with the traditional horizontal. That's typically where we'll take non-vented soffit material and run it vertically on that end. It goes up into the J-channel edge, which is right up top here, into the vinyl soffit, and then here's your aluminum fascia board coming down. Also, all of our block accessories, your gable vents, your light blocks or whatever, have that J-channel lip to them. So when it comes in the siding, once that block is up there first, the siding can slide up right up underneath it and give it that clean look. The way that this is designed with that lip, my siding can still expand and contract a little bit, and it's not pulling away or separating. Some guys will just terminate that edge right at the corner or whatever and put a bunch of caulk. Well, when it starts to expand and contract, what's going to happen to that caulk? It's going to split, right? So we don't need that. We're going to seal off that corner or the block, and then we'll have room for it to move and expand and contract a little bit. That's the idea behind it. It should move a little bit. All right? Over here, you can see we can set up over the garage. You can do a little herringbone style with the vertical soffit and go on an angle. You could go the other angle. You could go straight up and down vertically in that area. Now here you can also see this is a situation where we kept the freeze board separately. So we'd have to charge for trim coming up that freeze board and then the siding in between. But technically, I could have gone siding all the way up to the top and just put that in the J channel.
So that top part on top of the siding is freeze board too?
Correct.
Okay, that's not a fascia board.
It's not a fascia board.
So anything that's on angle is freeze board?
No, that's just a rake. Because this is the freeze board, that's not
So the rakes are freeze boards, eaves are fascia.
Freeze board is where it comes up against your flat wall. That's probably the best way to describe it. Like in that case, you have your flat wall and it's above
There's
that.
no overhang.
Here, you got your flat wall and this. Okay, your fascia board is brought out over where your gutters or your soffit would be. All right, so that's your freeze board there. See, we did the vertical soffit here.
I see. Okay, so if there's no soffit, then it's a freeze board.
Correct. And you guys don't. The main thing is it's going to be aluminum, regardless.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't really even if you were calling it wrong or identifying wrong, that's okay. Okay, the bottom line is, are we doing this in aluminum, this rake edge, or are we just going to run the siding all the way up? Okay, it's going to cost us more to bend and turn this aluminum and then side in between it versus just siding all the way to the edge. All right, we did the shutters over here on the sides, a couple different things we did. So here's your porch area. We line up all the seams. You can see every single one of these seams are lined up in the corners. We miter the joints at 45 degrees. Everything comes in a picture frame look. Again, are you just looking to make this maintenance free, or do you actually care about how it looks? This is an investment you're gonna be making, okay? Which one of those are you gonna get your biggest return on investment? Something like this? Or something like this?
It's done right.
Last guy never mentioned anything to him. They didn't explain how they might be miter and everything, but you're building the doubt against the last guy. Did he show you anything? Did he show you pictures of his jobs? Did he explain to you what he was gonna do or what he wasn't gonna do? Well, no, he really didn't. So do you really think he's going out of his way to take more time and energy and scrap to do it the right way? Or do you think he's gonna do the cheapest way possible to get it through?
Hey Dave, I hate to interrupt you, but I dropped the ball on something. I completely forgot. When the guys are going for Wells Fargo, they're probably thinking, fuck, there's a clip on everything. That 1% clip gets credited back, so we're not gonna charge the
I
guys.
told him that was our standard plan, and we had the rebates thing, and that's what I figured was coming through with it also.
Okay, perfect.
I'll reiterate it though.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure they know that they're not getting a clip on that one.
Okay.
It's the same as the 999 thing.
Perfect.
Alright, thanks, Dave.
When it's all done properly, you see how smooth of a finish you get? You're not seeing the waves and the buckles. Alright, you can see around the windows, you got, whoops, see, easy. I don't know how to use this one.
Really see the seat too.
You got your J channel edge, those are mitered at 45. Now you got your aluminum trim around the windows, that's mitered at 45. Gives you a clean cut. You mentioned too, you don't see the waves or the seams in it. Okay, what we do is when we come up, we find out where is your focal point of your house. So when you're pulling up, coming off the main road, what angle are you looking at when you're pulling up to that person's house? Okay, and all of the seams are scattered, so you can't see them from that angle. All right, there are going to be seams, but if you came in from the back of the house, that's where you see the seams. They're all staggered towards the back. Like here, this is the angle, which is the focal point towards the back. You're looking down that side, you're not going to see a seam, but if you were coming from the backyard, you would. But we determine, is it the left side of your house as you're pulling in to see your house, where everybody's going to notice it and you want that to be your flashy part, or is it the other side? Because, they don't want the seams and stuff to show. So that's the first thing that they do, and then they find the lowest point of the house, and they start working it from there, because they want everything to go in line. So you don't want to start up here and put your starter strip and start siding over here, and then on the one side of your house it starts down here. Now those seams don't match. You start at the bottom, and then you figure out where it's going to be, and you can work everything in there from that aspect. And these are all little things that the installers know, and that's the first thing that they do when they get out there. But just you even mentioning where the seams are going to be and where your I can't remember the term of it, but maybe where just like the where I is. I say the focal point.
Yeah.
And then there's a certain term from it, but that's the first thing that you should do, and you should talk to your customers about this. Where do most of the time you come in at? Where's the main entrance if you were coming into your house? So therefore you can kind of dictate it, and if you're talking about it, again, you're just putting yourself on a pedestal. No one else is even mentioning this stuff. And go, wow, I never thought about that. Wow, I never thought. That's the seed you want to plant and have the customer keep asking themselves that question. Wow, that's something I never even thought about. Some people get freaky, they do their brick chimneys. Whatever your preference is, man. But you can see the corner post coming up, how smooth of a surface you get. The shutters.
With that short of a, you're gonna have seams.
So, yeah, you're going to have...
How long are they? What's the longest?
It depends. I mean, you can get 10 footers, 12 footers, you can get 20 footers.
Okay.
Okay, the 20 footers are going to cost you more money, but somebody who has that front gable over their garage and they're like, I don't fucking want to seam, we'll give you one of these books or whatever you pull out and you can actually determine. In here, I'll get another one for this bag because it's fucked up. But it'll tell you the lengths of it, what colors are available in the 20-foot lengths. As long as they're picking out a color that it's available in, I'll do it, but now I can't use scrap. I can't, when I get to the edge, cut off, a 4-foot section and then start it there because the guy wants completely seamless. We're going to minimize the amount of seams that we're going to have on it. But again, I mean, it costs money. I can be the cheapest guy out there, and generally we'll hide a lot of the seams in those small sections. We won't put up, like in this top gable here, I'm not going to put a seam right here and have two pieces. No, I'm going to start with a fresh piece and just do it where it's completely seamless where I can. So in our jobs, we do have a lot more scrap than anticipated. That's part of the reason why our money or our cost is a little bit more too. But it's going to look 10 times fucking nicer. So you want to get the biggest return on your investment, don't you? If I'm using 2-foot pieces all over the place, and you got seams all over it, it's going to look like ass, and you ain't going to get that return.
So
Yeah.
how are we hiding the seams then if you're doing that? Obviously the gable right there you did deciding, because that's just a soffit right there, right? Underneath.
Yeah, this is soffit.
Yeah. So is there like a J channel?
Yeah, so if I zoom in,
Yeah, there's.
You got the J channel right there.
And that's, which piece? Just so I can see it.
And that's this here. So that's gonna get nailed up like this. And then your siding is gonna get cut on an angle and slid in here on that angle.
That way it can slip.
And then your soffit is just gonna slide right basically
Right behind it.
like that.
Okay.
And then there's your freeze.
I got it.
Okay? Doesn't it? Alright. Great answer. Best answer I ever. But now see, now this is your porch area, right? To the left of it is where you would have your approach. Actually, so this is your garage right here between this section and the garage. You'd be walking up and then you see what I'm saying, you'd have a little porch area. So all of the seams, you're not gonna see a seam as you're walking up. Because the seams are staggered towards that other side. That's again, with the point of view, wherever you're coming from, they're gonna make sure that they stagger in that fashion. Now here's your freeze board, it's got that bent drip, and then you have your soffit material that comes in from here, and then you have your gutter. And then your freeze board, or fascia board, and your gutter there. When it comes to the soffit as you see there, that's your typical soffit that you got, okay? Traditional, okay? And then where you have the vents, I don't know if I have the other piece in here or not. Where you have the vents, you have that like cheese grate look.
You get the small holes.
The small holes in it, right? And this is gonna be on your basic, this is gonna be on your like 2 package. All right, your number 2 package when it comes to the pricing, just your preferred, okay, it's gonna be your basic stuff and then it's gonna have the holes everywhere on it. Okay, just your perforated cheese grate type of stuff. When you get into your thicker stuff, your platinum, you're gonna get into your hidden vent. The vents are actually hidden inside of the seam so you can't see them. So therefore my whole soffit, I'm not gonna have those cheese grate holes everywhere. They're all hidden so you won't notice where any of your vents are, and I can actually take a circular saw and cut a continuous soffit and make sure your intake ventilation is completely clear. So when you guys are looking at roofing and stuff like that in your soffits, make sure you're looking. When you sit there and go, oh, they got no ventilation in it, sometimes they might, and you just can't tell from underneath. So you gotta be careful and just kind of look at it, because if you got close enough, you can see that there's still some little holes in it. Not saying the wood underneath wasn't cut. Never trust that guy, get in the attic and still look, but we prefer that. Now when you get into it, I'll show you the different time, because I don't think I have it in this. This is actually a better panel for your soffit than most of the companies use. There's one that's actually spread out a little bit further. The ingrained impression isn't as deep. When you look at these two side by side, which one looks neater and cleaner?
I think the one on the right.
The hidden one, it's got that deeper impression, more of a shadow line, where this is just kind of like that one. It's like,
Wide open.
I had to cover it, okay? So when you see these two side by side, get the customer out and point out their neighbor's shit, which is the old traditional stuff, and then point out this. This has a much classier, more defined look to it, plus the vents are all hidden. That's where we differentiate the packages. You might be out on the job for just trim and soffit, then you really gotta go over these details, because you don't have the underlayment difference. You're not putting the insulation board or the wrap on your fascia and soffit areas. That stuff only goes on the flat walls. So make sure that that's clear. That's going on the flat walls, because you'll have a customer going, well, you didn't wrap my fascia with that tie-back shit before you put the aluminum on it. We're not going to. It's only for the flat walls, okay, for the siding purposes. But this is if you're just doing trim and soffit on a brick ranch, you gotta point these details out. The mitering of the corners and all of that, those details, because that's gonna separate those packages and why your price is the way it should be, and where it's at. Here they did just the vertical. Above the garage, this is a bigger piece of aluminum. Now with your light fixtures and stuff, we have to take that light fixture down, for instance, in order to put the siding up and everything else, and then we'll have to remount it. All right? It makes no difference if we're gonna put up your old 40-year-old rusted, nasty fixture, or if we put a brand new one up there for us, or for you. Okay? If you want us to put up something new, just go to Home Depot, spend the 20, 30 bucks, have it in a box here, and we'll be more than happy to install the new fixture for you, as long as one's already existingly there. I'm not gonna add a light there, and we're not gonna do the electricity or none of that shit. Same thing with like your address plates or your addresses and stuff. You know, again, you're spending all this money to beautify your house, and you're gonna put that nasty old rusted, you know, address plate up there. Spend the 30 bucks. It's worth it. Just have it in a box. We'll put it up there for you. Okay? So that little extra and stuff, like, oh, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, we got a couple lights. We're not gonna do them if they're on the brick. If they have the lights that are sitting here or whatever, we're not gonna do those. But anytime that they're siding, if we gotta remove it, it makes no difference which one we're putting up, a brand new one or an old one. They had some shutters up there. We can get into mini fans. Okay? Anytime you get into something stylish like that, that's done in aluminum. Right? It's skilled labor to do all that stuff. They have to bend everything properly and crump it. I mean, I don't know if you've done any of that work.
We've never done those. I mean, I've bent metal, but not that.
Okay? Joe Boo's a master at it. Me and him did a couple of jobs down in my subdivision or whatever, and we did a bay window, and at the bottom he did a couple of beautiful sunbursts and shit
Actually,
like
I didn't
that.
even know it was aluminum. I
Yeah.
thought it came like that in vinyl.
No. So you can bend that stuff. Now you can do, that's what they call a mini fan or mini gable fan. Right up top, it's about 2 feet, nothing crazy on it. I could do that whole garage gable in one large one and do it up from that.
Oh.
And then they got different styles and stuff. The main thing is if you want one of those, I'll charge you for the mini one or the full. And then when the installers get out here, they'll open up their book and show you their portfolio, and this is all custom shit to them. So, I mean, there's one set price for the large and the small, but at that point, you pick out of their portfolio which style that you want and everything else, because they've done them quite a few different ways. You know, and siding is all custom. There's no fucking cut and dry way of doing some of these areas. You get in these houses where they got a weird ass electrical box on the back, or they had an addition put on, and all this crazy ass shit. So if a customer's ever trying to slam you, well, how's it going to work over here? Just typically they'll do it this way, but everything is custom, so they may have a different way of doing it that I never thought of or anything like that, and they'll explain those differences to you. A lot of times they'll come up with, that's what's nice about siding, is they're not here for one day and gone. You know, where you're at work, and by the time you get off of work and stuff, they're gone and done, and then you don't have any questions. They're here for a good week to 2 weeks. So if they go by your electrical box and they do something, you come home the next night or whatever, and you're looking at it when they're gone, and you're going, man, it just kind of looks fucked up. Tell them about it, call me up, I'll tell the installer, and then he'll discuss, well, I did it this way because of this, this, and this. I needed to protect this area, make sure the waterproof, you know, it's waterproof and stuff. But if it's something that you don't like and you guys can figure out, you know, talk about it, talk it out, and he'll change it out and redo it. It's not like he's already gone and then you'll never hear from him again. So that's what's nice about the installation on the siding is we're going to be here for a while, and it's all custom done. There's more than one way they can do it, but at the end of the day, I guarantee you this, because of our guarantee that we offer, they're not going to do something to your house that's going to threaten the integrity of the job. They're going to do it to make sure it looks good and it's sealed off properly. Okay, and if there's something where you just don't really like how it looks, if they can do it a different way to satisfy you and your looks, they will more than happy do that. We're looking for your referrals. Okay, but however, if it's going to threaten the integrity and they have to do it that way, trust the fact that we know what the fuck we're doing. That's why we have ratings and stuff that we do. But we want it to look good too, because ultimately we want our phone to ring. And if it's not looking good, then, you know, so that's why if you're asking me what kind of colors and shit, I'm going to help steer you to something I think is going to look good, because I want my phone to ring. Just because you wear it like purple, okay, I'm not going to put a purple fucking house full of siding on there, because your neighbors ain't going to like it, my phone's not going to ring. I mean, it's your money, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to put my sign up in front of your house now. That's all. All right, above the doors, typically they'll go vertical. You see how everything's mitered at 45 degrees? I'm pointing out this detail, guys, because I'm not just slapping this shit up there. Okay? We're taking our time. We're doing it the right way. We care about how your house looks. And it was funny because I did this house here in Troy at like 16 in the Quinder area, and then the house right across the street ended up calling me, and I did their siding, and then there's 3 houses down, and I did another siding job. So it's just word of mouth, man. If somebody likes the job, they're gonna go with it. Okay. Here's a beautiful one. This one was in Oxford. All the wood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So now what I want to point out is, okay, this here, it was in rough shape. It was actually the paint. It wasn't all rotted. There was a couple rotted spots, as you can see. But now they had the freeze board that came all the way up underneath. Some people would want, with their colors and stuff, they would want that accented.
Like a white thick look.
Right. So they would want that accented and everything else. In this situation, though, we went siding all the way up. So we used the insulation board. We built it out enough to cover that trim board that was on there. So now it was flat. We put the house wrap over it, the tie back, and then we were able to put the siding straight up into the edge of the gable.
And you guys did the veneer too.
We did the stone.
That's badass. That's fun.
Until I went back on install, in all honesty, and started taking these pictures, I had no idea they had a rounded arch here. I thought we cut it and did it. But then I started looking at the before pictures. And I'm like, fuck, that was there the whole time. But now you could tell it was there. I mean, look at, because of the colors, the accenting and everything we did.
So that white right there, that's the freeze too? Or no? The white
Right up here?
Yeah. What would you
Nah, I would just call that trim. I don't even know what that would be. But we saw what we did in here.
Yeah.
We rehung their light fixture. Actually, we might have upgraded it. They wanted the thicker trim around the window to make it pop because they had the corner posts that they were accenting. We put the ledge on, we did all the stonework coming through, I mean, this was night and day. I get so many compliments on this job. Here's the back of it.
I love the white.